everywhere you look nowadays, there are companies and people and all these different bodies trying to profit off of nostalgia just as a feeling. I think a lot of people are experiencing a longing for what used to be and what their lives used to be like and what the country and the world used to be like. And I totally understand why. Like, it's a difficult time in the world and in the United States right now to be super hopeful. Things aren't exactly looking up, I would say. And I try really hard. I try my best to sort of stay in the moment and stay present and live the life that I'm living now. But no matter what I do, I really do find myself sort of daydreaming of the past and of times in my life that I wish I could go back to and feelings in my life that I wish I could go back to. I think everyone can relate to having that feeling, whether it's frequent or not, of, I really miss this year when things were easier, when I was living in this city, or when I had this friend or partner or job, like whatever. And I think a lot of the younger generations, younger being like under 30, no offense to you if you're over 30 watching this, but I just got to draw a line somewhere. I think a lot of those generations are feeling it extra hard, where especially people who are kind of coming out of college and trying to find jobs and getting hit over the head with this huge hammer of reality. I think a lot of us, well, growing up, sort of thought, I just want to be older. I just want to grow up. Whether that means you were in middle school and you couldn't wait to be in high school and have your license, or if it meant you were in high school with your license and you couldn't wait to go off to college. Whatever point in your life you were at, I think a lot of us had this feeling of, I just want to get there. I just want to get there. Not even really knowing what there is, right? Like, I don't think we had a roadmap of when I'm 26, I will have this specific job. I will live in this city. I will live with this person. But I think we all had this kind of feeling inside us like we were headed for something and we needed to get to it as soon as possible. And I've been out of college now for not quite 2 years. And I've had, office job for over a year. And I find myself frequently looking around being like, is this really what I was in such a rush to get to achieve? Like, this can't be it. And I say that understanding that, well, I feel older now at 26. It's not as though I'm 70 and I've had kids and I have grandkids and I've done my whole life and now I feel that way. It's not this emptiness at the end of a life, obviously, but I do feel this sort of let down almost, as if I had this vague idea in my head of what things would be like, and they're not. And I can sort of feel the boomers rolling their eyes and being like, that's life, kid, like, you work and then you die. And it's not as though I'm under any illusions about that. Obviously, like, we have to work, we have to have an income to live, and that sucks, but it is the reality of the situation, and it's not like I didn't know that growing up. But I do have a suspicion that a lot of people in their, early to late 20s probably share a similar feeling to me, just that general feeling of, I'm not really where I want to be, and I'm not quite sure how to get where I'm trying to go because I'm not even sure where that is. But I think for a lot of us, it kind of boils down to this idea of just wealth in general. Like, I just want to make enough money to live comfortably and work a job that's not, a complete kickback, but isn't something that's going to demand all of my time and energy so that I'm left with just enough money to survive, but not a whole lot of motivation to do so. And I do think there are sort of multiple groups of reasons for these feelings. I think there's sort of macro things like the economy, right? Like, I think people who are graduating college right now are graduating into not a great economy with not a lot of entry positions, and the positions that are there don't necessarily pay super well and aren't really what they're interested in. And it's fine. I don't think it's our generation being entitled or saying, I want the perfect job right now for $500,000 a year at 23 years old. But it is a bleak time to be applying for your first or second job out of college. It's a tough time to be doing that. Like, I know so many people who have sent out hundreds of applications and they can't even really get rejections or interviews. And you take that and you combine it with a country that's incredibly polarized politically, that's at war. And I'm not saying politically, like, I'm not taking a side on that. I'm just saying we're at war, things aren't stable, the price of gas changes like every week. There's not a lot that you can rely on, whether it's political or economic. Like, I don't think things feel safe or stable for the younger generations that didn't get to buy a house when it was $70,000. On top of that, I think people are less sort of socially fulfilled. Social media has made us less social as a species. You don't have to go out and meet people. You don't have to put yourself out there. You can just sit and scroll with your favorite creator or whatever, and that kind of almost fulfills in a fake way this need for connection. And it's really easy in high school and college to think that that won't be you because you're living in the same town or down the street or in the same building as a lot of your closest friends. But when that stuff ends and people are kind of scattered to the wind because it's hard to find jobs, you do kind of get lonely fast. So with a generation of people who are graduating into a poor economy with really limited jobs in an unstable world politically and socially, and feeling loneliness and desperation and fear and anxiety and stuff, it's no wonder to me that so many people are feeling extremely nostalgic for the times that they were younger. And some of it is extremely obvious, right? Like, some of it is like, I miss when my only real responsibility in the world was doing homework. That's true, but at that time I also couldn't drive myself to the store or see friends when I wanted, or, things that are like, the trade-off is definitely in your favor growing up, but it doesn't make it any less true that the amount of responsibility combined with uncertainty that you start to experience in your mid to later 20s is a crazy adjustment. And unfortunately, we don't get to go back, right? There's no time where we get to go back. I think maybe at some point you get to sort of experience your children's first times with things, and like you sort of maybe relive that feeling of wonder. But until that happens, I really can't speak to it. But I have to remind myself that we don't get to go back to high school and college and feel those feelings again. And that's what makes them special, and that's what makes those memories so valuable to us. But if I let myself, I will slide into days and weeks of convincing myself that the present is no good because the past was somehow better. My friends and I will sometimes talk about how fun it was the first couple weeks of COVID, when all we really had to do was sit inside and play video games together because we were in college and Warzone had just dropped. So we did that for hours and hours every day, and it was extremely fun, and we made a ton of good memories. But we don't really look back on the following year as fondly, when that got old and we still had to stay inside and social distance and be less social, and we couldn't go back to university the way we could before. The past is always going to look a little bit more attractive in hindsight because of those rose-colored glasses. But I do think a part of it for the current generation that just graduated college or is about to graduate college, I think we have a point that it is a uniquely difficult time to be a young person trying to find work and start a life and feel fulfilled. I certainly have not figured out how to feel okay with this sort of anchoring feeling of nostalgia and desire to be further along or happier or more fulfilled in my life than I currently am. But I do think that a big part of the trick is working every day to try to recapture that feeling of what made you so happy at the time. If it was seeing friends, make as much an effort as you can to see and talk to friends. It's not going to feel the same, but there's a reason that you guys were close. There's a reason you have so many good memories with them. That's something that has been pretty effective for me in trying to feel a little bit more sort of alive in my life currently. Today is tomorrow's nostalgia, so try to live your life in a way that you'll be happy looking back on in the future.